Picture this. The power grid goes down. The temperature inside your house is climbing, degree by agonizing degree. That fancy AC unit you rely on all summer? It's now just a useless white box on the wall. For us, that's a nightmare. For our ancestors, it was just another Tuesday. Long before electricity, entire civilizations thrived in the world's hottest climates. They built empires in deserts, cities in jungles, and societies in oppressive heat without a single watt of power. So how on earth did they do it? Well, it turns out they had some seriously clever solutions that make our modern tech dependency look a little silly. In this video, we're counting down the top 10 ways people stayed cool way before air conditioning. We tend to think of the past as a time of constant hardship, and sure, in many ways it was. But when it came to dealing with heat, our ancestors weren't just getting by. They were masters of their environment. They had a deep, intuitive grasp of physics, architecture, and nature that we've mostly forgotten, trading it all for the simple convenience of a thermostat. They used the sun, the wind, and the earth itself to create comfort in ways that were not only brilliant, but also perfectly sustainable. So, let's rediscover some of that lost wisdom. We'll explore forgotten architectural wonders, clever daily routines, and engineering so smart, it's still inspiring green design today. This is a journey into the ingenuity of the past, a story of how humanity beat the heat with nothing but brain power. Number 10. The architectural powerhouses, thick walls and high ceilings. Let's kick things off with the foundation of any cool space, the building itself. Before you even think about fancy gadgets, you need a structure that does the heavy lifting for you. Ancient builders in places like Mesopotamia, Egypt, and the American Southwest knew all about thermal mass. They built their homes with incredibly thick walls made from stone, adobe, or mud brick. Think of these walls like thermal batteries. During the day's blistering heat, the walls would slowly soak up the sun's energy, stopping it from ever reaching the inside. This kept the interior remarkably cool. Then, when the desert temperatures dropped at night, the walls would gradually release that stored heat, keeping everyone warm. It was a simple, elegant, and perfectly balanced system. In some ancient Sumerian cities, houses were even built huddled together, so one neighbor's wall would shade another, cutting down the total sun exposure for everyone. Inside, another simple but brilliant feature was at play: high ceilings. We all know hot air rises. By building rooms with tall, soaring ceilings, they made sure the warmest air would gather way up high, far above the living space, leaving the area where people actually lived and worked feeling much cooler. It's a design trick so effective that it was standard in homes right up until air conditioning made it seem pointless. This wasn't just architecture, it was passive climate control built right into the bones of their homes. Number 9. The social solution, siestas and lifestyle shifts. Beating the heat wasn't just about what you built, it was about how you lived. One of the most famous and misunderstood hot weather traditions is the siesta. The name itself comes from the Latin hora sexta, or the sixth hour after dawn, basically high noon. In places like Spain, Italy, Greece, and all across Latin America, life was structured around the sun, not a 9-to-5 schedule. The logic was simple. Why struggle through the most brutal heat of the day when you could just not? People who worked outdoors, like farmers, would rise with the sun and then take a long break in the early afternoon. Shops would close, streets would empty out, and everyone would head inside for their main meal, often followed by a rest or a nap. Work would then pick back up in the cooler late afternoon and stretch into the evening. This wasn't about being lazy. It was a deeply intelligent survival strategy. It saved energy, prevented heat stroke, and let society run smoothly in climates that would otherwise be unbearable. People also changed their daily chores. Any task that generated heat, like cooking, baking, or doing laundry over a fire, was saved for the cooler hours of the early morning or evening. They didn't try to fight the heat with brute force. They danced to its rhythm, a lesson in working with nature instead of against it. Number 8. The desert refrigerator, the yakchal ao. Okay, now we're moving from clever habits to a piece of tech so incredible it sounds like something out of science fiction. Can you imagine making and storing ice in the middle of one of the hottest deserts on Earth with zero electricity? Well, allow me to introduce you to the Persian yakchal. Dating back to 400 BCE, the yakchal, which literally means ice pit, was ancient Iran's version of a freezer. From the outside, it looks like a giant cone-shaped dome made of clay. But the real genius is hidden. The system had a few key parts. First, a tall shade wall would block the sun from a shallow pool of water. During the freezing desert nights, this water would turn to ice. Workers would then break up the ice and haul it into the main event, a massive underground pit, sometimes over 150,000 cubic feet, all housed under that big dome. That dome was an engineering marvel. Its cone shape naturally funneled any warm air up and out through a hole at the very top, keeping the cold air settled at the bottom with the ice. The walls themselves were made from a special waterproof mortar called sarouj, a mix of sand, clay, egg whites, lime, goat hair, and ash that created incredible insulation. The whole system worked so well that it could keep ice frozen for months, allowing ancient Persians to enjoy chilled foods and even frozen desserts like falude, right through the blazing summer. Number 7. The Earth's embrace, underground and semi-underground living. If you can't beat the heat above ground, why not go where it can't find you? For thousands of years, cultures all over the world did just that, building their homes underground. Turns out, the Earth itself is an amazing insulator. Just a few feet below the surface, the temperature stays surprisingly stable all year round, cool in the summer and warm in the winter. In Cappadocia, Turkey, entire cities were carved out of soft volcanic rock. These underground homes offered a natural escape from the scorching summer sun and the harsh winter cold. The ancestral Puebloans in the American Southwest built pit houses, and even some early Viking and Japanese societies used partially underground structures for shelter. They were literally digging their way to comfort. But maybe the coolest use of underground space was in Persia, where it was part of a bigger system. Many homes had underground summer rooms called sardab. These weren't just basements. They were often connected to one of ancient Persia's greatest inventions, the qanat. Qanats are huge underground channels that carry water from mountains to cities, sometimes for dozens of miles. By building a house over a qanat, you could draw the naturally cool air from the water channel up into the living space, creating a naturally air-conditioned room on the hottest days. It's a great reminder that sometimes the best solution is right under our feet. Number 6. The power of water, evaporative cooling. You know that cool feeling when you get out of a pool on a hot day? That's evaporation at work, and ancient civilizations mastered this simple law of physics to create their own low-tech AC. In ancient Egypt, where it's incredibly hot and dry, people would hang wet reeds or mats in doorways and windows. As the desert wind blew through the damp material, the evaporating water would instantly cool the incoming air. Paintings from as far back as 2500 BCE even show servants fanning large, porous clay jars filled with water to cool the air for royalty. This idea was turned into an art form in Persian and Arabic architecture. Fancy fountains weren't just for looks. They were a key part of a building's cooling system. Placed in a central courtyard, the mist from the evaporating water would dramatically lower the temperature of the air circulating through the home. Some advanced designs, like the Ziza Palace in Sicily, even had a salsabil, a slanted, rippled marble slab that water flowed over. This was designed to maximize the water's surface area, which meant more evaporation and more cooling. It was just genius, turning a simple natural process into a powerful and beautiful cooling engine. Number 5. The breathing building, courtyards and atriums. Many of us picture ancient homes as dark, stuffy boxes. But in hot climates, the reality was often the exact opposite. Architects in the Roman Empire, the Middle East, and beyond designed buildings that could actually breathe, centered around an open-air courtyard or atrium. This wasn't just for a pretty garden, it was a sophisticated engine for natural ventilation. Here's how it works. A central, open courtyard, often filled with plants and a fountain, would act as a pool of cool air. The living spaces would open onto this courtyard. As the sun beat down on the building's roof, the air inside the rooms would heat up and rise. This created a pressure difference that would literally pull the cooler, denser air from the courtyard into the living areas, creating a constant, gentle breeze. The hot air would then escape through high windows, a process known as the stack effect. The Roman Domus was a perfect example. It had a courtyard at the front and a shaded garden in the back, creating a natural wind tunnel through the whole house. In Middle Eastern homes, these courtyards were the heart of the house, a cool, calm oasis that made life comfortable even when the city outside was an oven. It was a design that embraced the outdoors to make the indoors livable. Number 4. The art of the screen, Jali and Mashrabia. So how do you block the harsh glare of the sun, but still let in light and a nice breeze? In India and the Arab world, the answer was found in stunningly beautiful and practical architectural screens. In India, they're called Jali, and in the Arab world, Mashrabia. Jali are perforated screens, usually carved from stone like marble or sandstone, featuring incredibly complex geometric or floral patterns. They were a signature of Mughal architecture, seen in masterpieces like the Taj Mahal and the Hawa Mahal, or Palace of Winds, which has almost 1,000 windows covered in Jali. These screens did a few things at once. They provided privacy, letting people inside see out without being seen. They also broke up the harsh, direct sunlight into thousands of soft, dappled beams, lighting up the room without heating it up. But their real genius is in how they play with air. Thanks to something called the Venturi effect, when air is forced through the screen's tiny holes, it speeds up and gets compressed. This compressed air then expands and cools down as it enters the room, creating a noticeable chill. Mashrabia, usually made of wood, worked in a similar way but also helped humidify the dry air passing through them, adding to the cooling effect. These screens weren't just decoration. They were sophisticated environmental filters, a perfect blend of art and science. Number 3. The elevated escape, houses on stilts and rooftop. Living in humid tropical climates, the heat doesn't just come from the sun, it radiates up from the damp ground. In places like Southeast Asia and parts of India, a common fix was to simply lift the entire house off the earth. Building houses on stilts had some brilliant perks. The biggest win? It allowed for constant air circulation underneath the floor, which carried away both heat and moisture, keeping the living space much cooler. This elevation also protected the home from floods and pests. The space under the house wasn't wasted either. It became a shady, breezy spot, perfect for working, hanging out, or keeping animals during the hottest part of the day. But what if you lived in a dry desert climate? People there also looked up for relief. In ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia, flat rooftops were a crucial part of the home. During sweltering summer nights, when the thick-walled houses might still be radiating the day's heat, families would just grab their sleeping mats and head to the roof. Up there, they could catch any available breeze and enjoy the cooler night air, escaping the stuffy rooms below. It was a simple adjustment, using elevation to find a little pocket of comfort. Number 2. The smart skin, clothing, and personal choices. So far, we've focused on buildings and big ideas, but the most immediate environment you can control is the one you wear. Before we had polyester and other synthetic fabrics, people's closets were perfectly adapted to their climate. In hot places, the go-to fashion was loose-fitting and light-colored. The logic is pure physics. Light colors, especially white, reflect sunlight and its heat energy. Dark colors absorb it. That's why you see the iconic flowing white robes of the Bedouin and the white linen garments so common in ancient Egypt. The fabric itself was also critical. Materials like linen and cotton are super breathable, letting air move freely against the skin and allowing sweat to evaporate, which is the body's natural AC. The loose fit of the clothes was just as important. It created a pocket of air between the cloth and the body. Your body heat would warm this air, causing it to rise and pull cooler air in from below. This created a personal little convection current, a microclimate of comfort. It's a powerful reminder that the simplest way to stay cool is just to dress for the occasion, a piece of wisdom we've kind of forgotten in our air-conditioned world. We've covered some incredible ground, from desert freezers to buildings that breathe. We've seen that our ancestors weren't just putting up with the heat, they were outsmarting it with a level of ingenuity that is both humbling and inspiring. If you think this forgotten wisdom is as fascinating as we do, and if you believe these ancient ideas hold real lessons for our future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss our next dive into historical genius. Number 1. The wind catcher, the bagir. And now, for our number 1 spot, we're going back to ancient Persia for what is arguably the most iconic and elegant of all ancient cooling technologies, the wind catcher, or badgir. Rising like tall, ornate towers from the rooftops of cities like Yazd, these structures are a stunning example of passive air conditioning. They're basically chimneys that work in reverse. A wind catcher is a tower with vents on one or more sides. In its most basic form, it faces the prevailing wind. It catches the breeze high above the hot, dusty street and funnels it down a shaft into the heart of the building, providing a constant, refreshing flow of cool air. Modern studies have shown that a good wind catcher can lower indoor temperatures by a whopping 10 to 15 degrees Celsius. But the genius doesn't stop there. More complex wind catchers have vents on all sides and can create cooling no matter which way the wind is blowing. Some even work when there's no wind at all. Using convection, the sunny side of the tower heats up, causing the hot air inside to rise and exit. This acts like a vacuum, pulling cooler air up from a basement or an underground Qanat water channel. This creates a continuous, self-powering cooling cycle. When paired with a water source, the wind catcher delivers naturally chilled, and sometimes humidified, air through the whole house. It's an architectural masterpiece and a powerful symbol of what can be achieved without burning a single fossil fuel. From the intricate jolly screens of India to the mighty yakchals of Persia, the message is crystal clear. We've forgotten more than we currently know. For thousands of years, people didn't just suffer through the heat. They designed their way around it with breathtaking creativity. They built homes that breathed, cities that cooled themselves, and lifestyles that moved with the rhythm of nature. These weren't primitive fixes. They were sophisticated, sustainable, and born from a deep understanding of the world. Today, as we face rising global temperatures and the huge costs of our energy addiction, maybe the most important lesson from our ancestors is that more tech isn't always the answer. The wisdom to live comfortably and sustainably might not be in a new smart thermostat, but in the ancient sun-baked walls of a courtyard house or in the silent, ingenious design of a wind catcher reaching for the sky. The past, it seems, might just hold the key to a cooler future. Thanks for watching.